Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of these end times. This will be part 3 in my series on the amazing prophecies given by Q-Anon. And the reason I say prophecy is because some of the knowledge he is imparting to us can only come from Almighty God. And I am referring specifically to a prophecy, for example, about the Rothschilds. And this was like about 3 weeks ago in one of his messages. He isolated the letters LDR. He put brackets around them. And just about everybody figured out that he was talking about either Lord Rothschild or Linda Rothschild. And less than a week later, there was an airplane crash between a helicopter and a small plane over the Rothschild estate in Britain. And people said, well, Donald Trump must have caused that plane crash. And I'm telling you, no, Almighty God told Donald Trump and therefore Q-Anon about that plane crash. And you must admit it's got to be either Donald Trump caused the plane crash, or he was told about it by Almighty God. Those are the only two possibilities. And I say that Q-Anon is giving us true prophecy from Almighty God. So let's look at the next 20-some-odd verses from the message that he gave us on November the 14th, and we'll start with line number 12. Why, hours after the election, did 7 people travel to an undisclosed location to hold a very private and highly secured / guarded meeting? I think I read about this at the time. It was surmised that Hillary and Soros and Obama and evidently several others met to figure out how they could overthrow the election. And I'm sure that's what Q is referring to here. And what's interesting to me is the number 7. You remember in my last program I pointed out in the first of the 10-line section, the number 4 was mentioned because there were 4 F words mentioned. And that is a sign of apocalyptic literature because 4 and 7 are the two most important numbers. And here we find in the first line of this second 10 grouping another example of Bible prophecy using the word 7. And one of my subscribers said I should not equate Bible prophecy with the messages that Q-Anon is giving us, but that is exactly what I am doing. Let's look at verse number or line number 13. Why didn't Hillary Rotten Clinton give a concession speech? Well, I can tell you why. She's a sore loser. And the next line. When was the last time a presidential candidate didn't personally give a concession speech? Well, I'm not sure if this is a specific reference or not. I did not look it up. I think it's just a general comment showing that she's a sore loser. Or it could indicate that she immediately began planning how to overturn the election. And number 15, and here's where like prophecy comes in, because some of these are comments on what would happen. And 15 is what happens if the border remained open. In other words, if Donald Trump was not elected. And the mainstream media continued to brainwash. And that would continue the downward spiral of America. And therefore, this line is a prophecy. And line 16, at what point do patriots and hardworking men and women become a minority? And of course, this is the danger of any democracy. What happens when the evil people outnumber the good people? I remember Rush Limbaugh used to give the example of what happens if 3 men and 2 women are marooned on an island, and one of the men suggests, let's rape the women and take a vote. Would that be fair? 3-2? Of course not. It would still be immoral, even though it was legal. And we have that in this country with abortion. Abortion is immoral, but it is now legal. hopefully our president can change that. And number 17, what about voting machines? There's another good way that a Democrat majority can be fraudulently overcome. And number 18, who owns the voting machines? And I've read that a Soros company owns quite a majority of, or a large percentage of the voting machines. Another very good way that a good majority of hardworking patriots can be undermined by an illegal minority, the one world people like Soros and Hillary and Obama. Number 19, what about voter ID laws? Well, if you don't ID the voter, then there can be more fraud. People can vote more than once. And how about verse number 20, or line number 20, photo ID? When is it necessary and must be presented? Make a list and laugh. I think what Q-Anon is telling us here, that the photo ID laws are a joke. In other words, right now, many voting booths are open to just about anybody. Illegals, in fact, I couldn't believe it, but in this last election, Barack Obama urged illegals to vote. Can you imagine a president saying something like that? It tells you how these people think. And the last line in this 10-verse section is reconcile. And I'm not sure what that means. If some of you would like to add your comment below, it's possible that Q is telling us that this is one area that Democrats and Republicans could reconcile on. I mean, why would the Democrats not want to have secure voting laws? Why wouldn't they want to have photo IDs or some other way to make sure that everyone who votes has a legal right to vote? It seems to me that this is one thing Democrats and Republicans could get together on. So now let's look at the next 10 verses or lines in this 50-line message given by Q-Anon on November the 14th. In other words, line number 22. Would the chances of defeating evil grow less and less with each passing year? Absolutely. I think America would totally fail if we had elected Hillary. We would have been under the one world government automatically. And all of our rights would be taken away. And those of us who practice our religion would have to go underground. And line number 23, what does red line mean? I really don't know what red line means. If you know, please put the comment below. If you give a good answer, I will pin your comment. And you have a chance to contribute to this video. 24, why again were the arrests in Saudi Arabia so very important? And the answer is given in the next line. 25, what strings were immediately cut? And I'm sure this is financial strings. In other words, Saudi Arabia were big contributors to the Clinton Foundation, and they also supported Islamic terrorism. And I believe Saudi Arabia was the very first country President Trump visited. That was one of his first priorities, was to cut that funding to evil around the world. And 26 verifies that. Follow the money. 27, when does a bird sing? I really don't know what Q is getting at here. There's another place that you can give me your 2 cents. I'm sure you can explain this better than I can. And 28 is Q's signature. Q, in other words. And the reason these two messages are broken up is because they were posted at separate times, only a few minutes apart from each other. But these two messages on November the 14th are really one and the same message. And Q then proves this by the next line, which is 29, and which actually refers back to the previous 4 lines that we have just spoken about. Who financed 9/11? And I'm sure Q is telling us that Saudi Arabia financed 9/11. Number 30, who was bin Laden's handler? I think that is answered in the next line, and I'm not sure if he is talking about a particular person or a group. In this case, I think the group is explained in line 31. Why was the CIA tasked to hunt/kill/capture Osama bin Laden? And I can see why Donald Trump does not go on national television and tell us the answer to these. He wants us to work these out. This is our job. It's up to us to make videos. And a lot of people are making videos on Q-Anon's messages. And that's what I'm doing. And I believe it's very important. And I believe we should do it because I think these messages come from Almighty God. And line number 32, why not military intelligence? Another good question. I think QAnon is hinting here that all of this was treachery and treason, and when Donald Trump succeeds in draining the swamp, we are going to find out a lot of things that have been happening in the recent presidencies of both Bush and Clinton and Obama. And now I would like to thank some more people who have donated very generously since my last program. Jorge in Brazil. Thank you, Jorge. He donated just this morning. Daniel in Florida. Thank you, Daniel. Paula in Connecticut. Morris or Maurice in Guatemala. And Elizabeth in Ohio. So thank you all very much. You're helping me with seed money for my book project. And if any of you would like to help, just click on the PayPal button, either on my YouTube channel or on my ThirdEagleMedia.com website.